Polk says, wow, this is insane. It's just such a monster raise. It really is a gigantic raise, right? What have you got over there, Phil? Phil, I'm considering making a very big laydown, Doug Polk says. And then Hellmuth decides to talk, which I think was probably a bit of an error. Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan Little for PokerCoaching.com, here today with a very exciting hand from High Stakes Poker, where Doug Polk, who is supposedly a good, strong GTO player, makes what is probably a very non-GTO play. So let's get right to it. Before we do though, do me a quick favor, click the like and subscribe buttons below. Also, there's a notification bell to be sure that you do not miss any of the upcoming videos I have lined up for you. And there are a lot of great educational poker hands, videos, live webinars, etc. in the works. So make sure you click the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. In this hand, Phil Hellmuth elects to raise it up to $1,100, playing about 250 big blinds deep. We're playing 200, 400, no limit hold'em. This is a big game. This is high stakes poker. Make sure you watch it on PokerGO. For those who do not know Phil Hellmuth, he has the most World Series bracelets of anyone. He has a whopping 15 of them. That's a lot. He also has $24 million in live tournament winnings. That's also a lot. And he has cashed in a poker tournament every single year since 1987. That's almost as long as I've been alive. He raises it up. James Board elects to call on the button. James Board, good, strong, accomplished player as well. Over $4 million in live tournament earnings, including a WSOP Europe main event win way back in 2010. And then Doug Polk has 10-7 offsuit in the big blind. If you are familiar with my YouTube channel, we've gone through tons of hands that Doug Polk played heads up against Dale Negreanu in their heads up duel, where Doug Polk ended up winning about $1.2 million off Negreanu. And he typically does seem to try to play a pretty GTO strategy. And right here with 10-7 offsuit, this is a close spot, but I definitely do think calling is reasonable. We see a flop. Pretty good for Doug Polk. He has the second nuts. It comes Jack of spades, 9 of spades, 8 of hearts. He has 10-7 for the literal straight. He checks, as he should do with his entire range most likely. Phil Hellmuth opts to check as the pre-flop raiser. This is going to be important in just a second. James Board decides to bet $2,000 into the 3,900 pot. And now Doug Polk has a pretty easy raise. This is a spot where Doug Polk's going to want to raise with a lot of his best hands that are susceptible to being outdrawn, which really are the vast majority of his best made hands here, right? Pretty much all of them. And then some bluffs with stuff like flush draws, backdoor flush draws, a 10, maybe a queen. Those are all reasonable hands to consider bluffing with. You may say, why would I raise a 10-7? Because I'm really not that worried about getting outdrawn, but you actually are. It's pretty easy for James Board to have a flush draw, a random queen. He could easily have 2 pair, or a hand like ace-jack that is going to stick around against a raise. So this is a spot where Doug Polk can extract a lot of value from 10-7. And when he is against a draw, he doesn't mind building the pot. So when we're playing really deep stack, notice we're playing 300 big blinds deep against James Board here, I would probably make it something like $8,000 or $9,000. And you may say, that's pretty big. And yeah, it is. This is a spot where when we are playing super deep stacked, you want to raise bigger than you would if you're playing shallower stacked. For example, if we were playing 40 big blinds deep, you may opt to check raise to, let's say, 5,000 here. But as you get deeper and deeper, often you're going to want to go bigger and bigger with a strong polarized range, like I got to presume Doug Polk is doing here. He does go for 7,000. I think he can go a little bit bigger, but, you know, this is fine. This is definitely way better than a small raise, because when you make a small raise, yes, you're going to get called by perhaps a few more marginal made hands that are drawing thin, but you're also just not really protecting your hand and maximizing value when you are against one of the very strong hands. Okay, so far, this hand seems fine and reasonable until this happens. Phil Hellmuth shovels all of his money in. $100,000. All of it. And if you go back and watch this episode of High Stakes Poker, I'm going to try to act out what Phil Hellmuth was doing in this hand. He was pretty much chilling. He raises pre-flop. Okay, flop comes. Check. Check. Bet 2,000. Doug Polk thinks for a little bit, raises 7,000. Phil Hellmuth, all in. Now, for those who do not know Phil Hellmuth, he is not known to be a player who runs all that many extravagant bluffs. He's typically pretty straightforward when a lot of money goes in the pot. To be fair, as you very often should be. You should either have a really good made hand or a hand with very high equity in this scenario if you are just ripping it all in. After the button bets, whose range connects very well with this board, and Doug Polk raises, who also should connect very well with this board. So we're going to presume Phil's range is quite strong here. Either a very good made hand or a very good draw. James' board folds, and now it's back to Doug Polk. What should he do? Well, what would you do? What I want you to do is I want you to actually sit here and think about this, because this is a very, very interesting spot where even though Doug Polk has a straight, he could be in pretty bad shape, right, if he is against the Queen 10. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to write in the comment section below if you would call or if you would fold. Go ahead, do it. Nice job doing that. Going through this active learning process is going to go a long way to ensuring you improve your poker skills. I have a training site, PokerCoaching.com, where we have over 1,000 interactive quizzes where I ask you what you do on every single betting round. We have a wide array of world-class coaches. One of them who's been putting on a lot of live webinars recently with our students is Matt Affleck. Matt Affleck's been crushing the games for a long time, and he is highly engaged with the poker coaching students, presenting webinars on whatever topics they want. And if there's anything you want to know, get in there, ask him, and he will make the content for you. He's just one of our many coaches at PokerCoaching.com, and you can get a free trial at PokerCoaching.com/free. All right, in this scenario, typically, you're probably going to find that this is a call if Phil Hellmuth is playing anything besides a little bit overly tight. If Doug Polk in this hand was against pretty much anyone else at the table, I think this is just a pretty easy call. But against Phil Hellmuth, is this actually a call? What I want to do is I want to pull up Equalab here. This is a free tool. You can just search Equalab. And I gave Doug Polk his hand 10-7 offsuit. We put in the board Jack 9-8. And let's give Phil Hellmuth a range. Let's presume he's going to do this with all the Queen 10s. He is in the hijack seat. Maybe he raises Queen 10 offsuit. Maybe he doesn't. But let's assume he does it with all Queen 10s and that's it. As you see here, Doug Polk has almost no equity. This is assuming he chops sometimes. What about if he does this with pocket or with Queen 10? And then also let's give Doug Polk Ace 10 of spades and King 10 of spades, okay? Let's give him just those. Because, Ace 10 of spades and King 10 of spades are very reasonable hands to rip it all in here with, right? They have a 10 for the open-ended straight draw, and they have a good flush draw. I think that's at least reasonable. What about a few other flush draws? What other flush draws make sense? He could have Ace 8 of spades. Does he play like Queen X? No. He could have King Queen of spades. Let's go back and give him a few more flush draws here. Let's give him King Queen, Ace 8 of spades, okay? We're selecting just the spades here. So now we're giving him a range of the nuts and premium flush draws. And you see against this very, 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 very tight range, Doug Polk only has 18% equity, which makes this a really easy fold because the time it gets back to him, he has to put in 90,000 to try to win 200,000. So he needs to win, 45% of the time? So if Phil Hellmuth's range to casually rip it all in this scenario is only these premium hands, this is actually a very easy fold. Let's take a look if he has sets. Let's add in jacks, 9s, and 8s. I do not think this would be a good way to play sets, by the way, because whenever you rip it in with a set, it's very easy for Doug Polk to have Queen 10 or 10-7, right? So you're just making a big error when you do that. That said, even if he does rip it in with sets as well in the spot, you see, Doug Polk's only at 35% equity. What if we add in pocket 10s as a blocker bluff? Now he jumps up to 39% equity. So we need to find even a few more bluffing hands for Phil Hellmuth to be shoving with in this scenario. What else could he have? I mean, I guess he could just have like King 10 offsuit. I'm gonna give him all King 10s. This is probably gonna be enough to sway this to a call if I had to guess, and it does. So pretty much anytime we add in a large number of combinations of hands that Doug Polk is in bad shape against, that's when it starts to become, I'm sorry, that Doug Polk's in good shape against, like King 10. That's when this is going to become a call. However, do we actually think Phil Hellmuth is going to just casually rip it in here with King 10 offsuit? I would be flabbergasted if that's the case. So in reality, if you had to sit me down and say, what does Phil Hellmuth actually jam here with? I mean, it's honestly something like this. Let's just give him even a few more flush draws to make this a little bit even better for Doug Polk. Okay, let's give him all these spades. So basically, he has all of the good flush draws. Okay. In this scenario, giving Phil Hellmuth a range of sets, straights, and all the good flush draws, we see that Doug Polk only wins 41% of the time. This could be a fold. Now, assuming Phil is tight, this is probably a fold. What actually happened when they were playing, though, is Doug Polk probably got a read on Phil Hellmuth. Let me talk to you about what they said. Again, you can go back and watch all of this at PokerGO. Once James board folds, Doug Polk asks how many chips it is. Phil casually counts out his chips, says 97-2. Polk says, wow, this is insane. This is such a monster raise. It really is a gigantic raise, right? What have you got over there, Phil? Phil, I'm considering making a very big laydown, Doug Polk says. And then Hellmuth decides to talk, which I think was probably a bit of an error in this scenario, because he said, I could easily have a set. Then Polk says, could you have a set? I don't think you have a set here. Come on, Phil, you're better than that, which, you know, like I said, jamming a set here is probably not ideal. Jamming much of anything is probably not really all that great here. Then Phil says, I could have the blockers, like pocket tens he was referring to. Oh, now you're busting out blockers, says Polk. Oh, if I'm wrong, oh my goodness, oh my lord. Then he says, I could have the ace-10 of spades. Notice here, he's basically named off every single hand he does not have. There's a book by Zach Elwood called, he has a few books on tells, called Reading Poker Tells, Verbal Tells, something like that. Anyway, sorry for messing up the name. These are books where he goes through lots and lots of data of examples of people saying things like this. And if my memory serves me right, whenever people go through and list off like everything they could have, except for like one really obvious hand, usually it's the really obvious hand that they have. And that's pretty much what happened in this instance. Now, I'm not saying that Phil necessarily has any sort of horrible verbal tells where in scenarios like this, he just starts listing off every hand he could have that he doesn't, and doesn't list the hand that he does have. But in this situation, that is actually what happened. Doug Polk opts to show this hand. He tables it face up, which you're often allowed to do in cash games. Make sure that's allowed at your casino before you do it. He shows his hand. Phil all of a sudden like clams up a little bit, like, oh my god, if I just said something that's going to make this guy fold this hand. And then Doug Polk pretty easily folds. I don't even think it was like any magic of editing to make the hand go faster. It looks like he made this fold in like 30 seconds. And he probably very quickly went through this analysis that we just went through, where if Hellmuth's range is kind of tight, notice here if we take out the sets, by the way, if his range is only queen 10 and good draws, he's just not in good shape with the 10-7. Just not in good shape. It's a spot where you actually should fold if your opponent does not have anywhere near a lot of bluffs in this scenario. And I have to think that is probably what is happening. And Phil just probably doesn't have very many bluffs. If he doesn't have many bluffs, this is actually a very, very good, solid fold, and Doug Polk finds it. And fortunately for him, he's not going to be made fun of by the internet forever because Hellmuth did just have the queen 10 for the straight. So that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, again, do me a favor, click the like and subscribe buttons below. I would appreciate it. Also, click the notification bell because we have lots and lots of fun stuff in the pipeline coming to you very, very soon. Good luck in your games. Have a great, great week. If you're going to make big folds, make sure they're right. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want more strategy lessons, pre-flop charts, and interactive quizzes, make sure you get your free membership to pokercoaching.com right now at pokercoaching.com/free. I'll talk to you next time.